Fox McCloud, Falco Lombardi, Peppy Hare, and Slippy Toad were quite literally left to rot in a storage closet. Nintendo permanently destroyed the original 1993 physical puppets used for the Star Fox box art because their natural rubber flesh was
degraded into sticky chemical waste. Shirogumi, the Japanese visual effects company, constructed those figures by gluing real animal fur and dyed bird feathers directly over metal armatures coated in natural latex rubber. Oxygen exposure caused the latex to break down at a molecular level.
Destroying them became a practical sanitation necessity once the promotional cycle finished and the foam began weeping oil.
Securing a legacy requires severing it from anything that can degrade on a shelf. Physical media and natural materials represent massive liabilities for a corporation trading on nostalgia. Controlling the distribution of digital code ensures the original product never ages and never requires physical warehousing.
The destruction of those physical puppets frames everything Nintendo is doing currently in 2026. They completely abandoned physical decay to immortalize their legacy. They are pushing premium digital sales, engaging in cutthroat Hollywood bidding wars, building massive biometric scanning theme parks, and aggressively licensing their intellectual property.
Reviewing the current Amazon Gaming Week discounts provides a direct view into that digital strategy. Digital-only copies of major first-party Switch games are running 33 to 40% off currently.
Purchasing these games means you are buying a ghost in the machine. A purely digital license replaces the physical cartridge destined for a landfill. Intelligent Systems currently has 2 radically different strategy games discounted to $39.99.
Fire Emblem. Three Houses forces agonizing narrative choices upon the player. Every single faction harbors a dark side. You spend dozens of hours tailoring an army of distinct individuals, training them in specific combat arts, and knowing your battlefield decisions carry permanent tragic ramifications for their lives.
You get incredibly attached to these, digital teenagers. You pore over their stats, figure out who should fight next to whom to build relationship points, and make sure they survive massive battles.
Advance Wars 1+2. Reboot Camp sits at that exact same $39.99 price point. The gameplay turns military units into disposable resources in a cold mathematical game of map placement. Sending an infantry unit into a meat grinder of enemy fire is just part of the tactical calculation.
A destroyed tank gets instantly replaced by spending funds to manufacture another one at your home base.
One title demands deep emotional investment in unique characters. The other requires ruthless resource management, where human lives are just numbers on a grid. Nintendo values both of these distinct psychological experiences equally.
Paying $40 for a digital file from 5 years ago feels like walking onto a used car lot and having the dealer demand the original factory sticker price. These are digital files that cost literally $0 to reproduce. Most publishers slash their games to $5 after a few years to squeeze out the last bit of profit. Charging a premium for old code feels like
Protecting the entire brand requires artificial scarcity. Dropping prices to $10 to chase a quick quarterly revenue spike destroys the perceived worth of the entire library.
when consumers know a game will drop to $5, they wait. Training your audience to expect massive fire sales teaches them that your art is cheap. You see that rigid premium pricing applied to the Bayonetta 1 and 2 bundle at $39.98.
Platinum Games built high-camp action experiences using magic and hair to battle otherworldly monstrosities. The stories turned Bayonetta into a deeply compelling character, defying simple categorization.
You can also grab Alive for $29.99. Square Enix developed that using an HD 2D visual style to span multiple historical epochs.
Players navigate grid-based combat scenarios featuring Wild West heroes, valiant robots, ninja clans, and prehistoric warriors. The episodic structure completely upends traditional role-playing game pacing.
Including Emio the Smiling Man for $29.99 proves Nintendo can execute dark, slow-burn mysteries without relying on their traditional family-friendly mascots. You are tracking a serial killer who leaves a smiling paper bag over the victim's head.
Adding Metroid Dread for $39.99 delivers Samus Aran engaging in intense, action-heavy combat against relentless machines. The variety in this specific sale highlights a portfolio designed to cover every possible demographic.
They maintain all of these at a premium price point to signal quality. We are moving past the concept of video games as just software.
Locking characters to specific plastic consoles was a massive vulnerability. Escaping the video game industry completely guarantees these franchises survive independent of hardware. A recent report from V-Scooper indicates Nintendo is actively pitching a Metroid movie to major Hollywood studios today.
Sony Pictures and Universal are currently locked in a vicious bidding war for those film rights. Handing a foundational sci-fi property over to Sony represents a staggering departure from their historical hyper-protective nature regarding intellectual property.
Sony possesses the global cinematic distribution infrastructure Nintendo lacks. Reaching audiences who have never touched a video game controller requires building strange alliances.
Giving movie rights to Sony Pictures feels like handing the blueprints to your house to your fiercest competitor. Sony builds the PlayStation. They are like the direct rival fighting for the exact same consumer base. Allowing them to profit off Samus Aran seems completely backwards.
Nintendo already released two highly profitable animated Mario movies. A live-action Zelda film arrives next year. The insular corporate shell of the 2000s is entirely gone.
Gail Tilden, the former marketing manager at Nintendo of America, confirmed a Metroid film was actively planned back in the 2000s. It died rapidly because of creative disagreements. Nintendo refused to yield control over their characters back then, terrified of a repeat of the disastrous 1990s live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Moving away from isolated console hardware ensures these franchises survive independently of screen resolutions or changing gaming habits. A movie exists forever in the cultural footprint. Securing a deal with Sony or Universal guarantees that the Metroid franchise becomes a permanent fixture in global entertainment.
Universal is doing far more than fighting for movie rights. They have physically constructed these digital worlds in Florida at Epic Universe. They took the pixels and turned them into concrete.
The Donkey Kong Country family coaster, Minecart Madness, currently commands 1 to 2 hour lines every single day. Engineering that coaster required solving massive physical physics problems.
The ride simulates jumping across broken tracks, just like the old Super Nintendo games. Universal achieves this by utilizing a hidden secondary track system beneath the primary visual track.
The cart you ride in is actually attached to a massive hidden arm underneath. The track you see is entirely fake. Guests soar through the air looking at a broken rail ahead of them, and their brains completely buy the illusion of jumping the gap.
You physically feel the lift and the drop while hovering over nothing but air. People planning to ride Minecart Madness on Saturday, May 3, 2026 will find it completely closed for a single-day refurbishment.
Removing that single high-capacity attraction redirects thousands of angry guests to the park's other rides, Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry in Mario Kart. Bowser's Challenge will absorb a massive surge in wait times.
Operations resume May 4. Planning a cross-country family vacation around a specific roller coaster only to find it closed for exactly 1 day feels like showing up to your own surprise party 24 hours late. The mathematical balance of a theme park relies on distributing human bodies evenly across the acreage.
Central Florida rain threatens the 7 outdoor rides constantly. A typical afternoon storm completely shuts down the exterior coasters due to lightning proximity protocols.
Closing a major coaster severs a critical artery in that circulatory system. That weather variable crushes the remaining indoor ride capacities. Thousands of wet tourists get forced into massive bottleneck lines for the indoor attractions. The entire park turns into a logistical nightmare the second a dark cloud appears.
Operating Epic Universe requires a staggering logistical scale. A single broken link in the attraction lineup, combined with a sudden weather variable, shatters a theme park's hourly capacity.
The sheer density and technological ambition of these environments has elevated Universal from a secondary Orlando stop to a primary destination rivaling Disney. They are processing tens of thousands of humans through highly engineered choke points every single hour. Getting into these highly engineered worlds demands our physical data.
Universal's photo validation system now uses facial recognition at world portals for virtual lines. Scanning an actual biological face to stand in a virtual line for Mario Kart brings a deeply dystopian edge to a family vacation.
You trade your biometric data for the privilege of waiting in a shorter queue to ride a simulation of a racing game. Eliminating paper tickets and phone scans speeds up physical throughput.
Universal processes human bodies through these themed portals with maximum mechanical efficiency. The biometric scan replaces the physical ticket, turning the guest's face into the required digital token.
The camera maps the geometry of the face, confirming identity in milliseconds to eliminate the friction of pulling out a phone or digging for a lanyard. We started with Nintendo discarding physical, rotting rubber puppets. We end with them scanning our actual physical faces to let us into a simulated video game world.
When a biological body becomes the entry ticket and the surrounding physical environment acts as the console, you have to wonder where the physical boundary of a game actually exists anymore.
The screen has literally been replaced by the physical world. Bye-bye.